So we'll talk about the crime, the traffic, and of course, we can't forget about the alligators.
Hey guys, Donovan here, and I am a local real estate agent here in Gainesville, Florida. And yes, a local real estate agent that's going to share all the bad things about his city with you. I'd much rather you find out all the negative things about our town on a short YouTube video versus spend a bunch of time, money, effort, do the research, get here and decide you don't like it. So one of the first things I want to share with you is the property taxes and also the high utilities. Alachua County is consistently one of the most expensive when it comes to property taxes. And then on top of that, we've got Gainesville Regional Utilities, which again is going to be always on the higher side when it comes for the cost of utilities. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, even if you're coming here and planning to rent, those two things will still be an issue because you've got the monthly utility bill that's going to be higher, but also rent is going to be higher because landlords just roll those added costs and the higher property taxes over to the tenants. That, in addition to high demand for rental units, is going to keep the prices for rental properties much higher than a lot of other places. So I was born and raised in Gainesville, so I'm sure I've gotten used to a lot of the things that most people would consider negative. So I went ahead and I reached out to some of my past customers, friends, and family who are relatively new to Gainesville and polled them to see what they didn't like about the area. And one thing that came back on a kind of consistent basis was the lack of things to do and also the lack of shopping. So of course, Gainesville is a college town and the university brings in a lot of events, concerts, speakers, all of that sort of stuff. And outside of that, Alachua County and Gainesville does a fair job about bringing in different events and things to do, but we're definitely not going to compare with a place like Miami or South Florida where you just have nightly activities and a lot of different choices every single night. That's not going to be Gainesville. And on the same side, when it comes to shopping, if you're really into high fashion, shopping, doing a lot of stuff like that, you're probably going to have to go to Orlando or travel a little bit. Gainesville does have some small custom unique boutiques in Thornburg Village and downtown Gainesville. We're also growing on the Archer Road side of things. A lot of new shops coming into Butler Plaza and Celebration Point. But if you're used to high fashion and amazing places to go shopping, that's not where Gainesville currently is today. So if you've been doing any research on Gainesville already, one thing that you're probably going to come across are some of the crime statistics. Overall, Gainesville does not fare well in those statistics. We're consistently higher in a lot of categories when it comes to crime compared to the rest of the state. So that's something you definitely want to be aware of and know about and be prepared for. But I would say don't let it stop you from considering Gainesville or visiting. That's not something that I've experienced or had a challenge or problem with in Gainesville, but everyone has a different perspective and different experiences. So I'd say come to Gainesville, visit, spend some time in different areas, find out what you like and what you don't like. The good news is over the last few years, those statistics and the challenges with crime have been trending downward. So hopefully that continues to improve, but it's definitely something to be aware of. So if you were to ask me what's the worst part about living in Gainesville, I'd probably tell you it's the heat and humidity. There's a lot of great times of the year where it's absolutely beautiful, but some of those summer months are just so hot and so humid, it makes you not want to do anything outside, and there's so many beautiful areas to go and see and explore, but when it's so hot and you just get so sweaty, it makes you not want to leave the house. If you don't mind the heat and don't mind getting sweaty, Gainesville could definitely be a great place for you. But if you've noticed that heat impacts you maybe a little bit more and it makes it a little bit more difficult, just be prepared for that because that is something that you'd have to deal with here in Gainesville.
So one of the other things that's going to come up on a regular basis is traffic. Of course, all of these different topics and issues, challenges are going to be relative depending on where you're coming from and what you've experienced in the past. Some of these could be a non-issue and others may be significant. Traffic's going to be one of those. If you're coming from Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, or a place like Atlanta, traffic is not really going to be an issue. One of the challenges that Gainesville has is it's a smaller, tighter community, and there's not a ton of back roads or alternate routes to get where you want to go. A lot of our roads are also 2, maybe 4 lanes. So because there's only a handful of routes to go and get where you want to be, that ends up funneling a lot of people into all the same areas, and of course that's going to cause traffic to back up. There's also not a lot of left-hand turn lanes and some of those sort of small things that you wouldn't really notice, but they do have a compound effect which can pile up some traffic. You're going to of course notice it the most early morning and late afternoon when people are going to work and coming home. And then of course if you live anywhere around the university, especially during game days on the weekends, of course there's going to be a ton of people coming to town. That's kind of a unique, separate situation, but traffic overall is something that you'll see complained about a bit, and depending on where you're coming from may or may not be an issue. So one thing that I get asked about all the time that's really not an issue is the alligators. People from outside the area are always questioning, are there alligators everywhere? Is that something I should be worried about? And overall, it's not really a big issue or big concern. There are some areas that are known to have alligators. A place like Lake Alice on the university campus, you're not going to want to walk your dog really close to the water. You want to pay attention to your surroundings. Typically, when there are alligators in a public place, there's signs and warnings up, but pretty quickly you get used to your surroundings. But on a day in, day out basis, alligators and attacks and stuff like that is not something you have to worry about. One thing that you will notice may affect you on a daily basis is going to be the bugs. Florida and Gainesville does have a fair amount of bugs. The two that I'll mention are going to be love bugs and also palmetto bugs. Now luckily love bugs are only here for about 2 weeks during the year, but when they're here there are a lot of them. And one thing definitely keep in mind, if once the love bugs get all over your car, make sure you're washing it and cleaning it. Those love bugs can do a lot of damage to your paint, so you definitely want to keep up with that. And then we've also got the palmetto bugs, which are kind of like big flying cockroaches. They're pretty gross, but I mean, it is what it is. Once you get into your property and you have pest control and that sort of thing, it's not really an issue. But I have talked to some customers and there's a little bit of an adjustment period, and once all the bugs are gone you don't really notice them, so that's something else to keep in mind. So like I mentioned, most of these things are going to be relative depending on what you've experienced in the past and what your expectations are when you're coming to Gainesville. But overall there are so many good things that outweigh the bad things, and that's why people love it here and that's why they live here and stay here. So many people come because of the university and then they end up staying longer. So what you want to do next is go ahead and watch this video where I share with you a little bit more about what you can expect if you're moving to Gainesville.